Hello everyone and welcome to Archmage Gaming. Thank you all who viewed my first video of Worlds Adrift when it was releasing to early access on Steam. That was amazing, guys. And as always, if you're liking the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share. It helps out, guys. I really appreciate it. Today is going to be for your new players who are just getting into Worlds Adrift, who may have questions about gaining knowledge and building your first ship, and tips on both. So, knowledge for all of you who are new to the game is the way for you to upgrade your ship. It's how you get more schematics for more parts for your ship, and how you keep upgrading your ship to make it larger, better, faster, stronger, all that stuff. So, gaining knowledge is what we're going to go on first. Is pretty simple. Anything in the game besides islands themselves, like you can't scan the ground, but any item as a tree or some kind of plant life as some kind of ruin can be scanned at least once to gain knowledge. And then once that's scanned, no matter which island you're on or which zone you're in, you no longer gain knowledge from that item because it's used up already. Another way for gain knowledge, and this is the main way, is by gaining knowledge through knowledge caches. Now, the knowledge caches look like big buckets or big barrels basically that are glowing, and they give you 25 knowledge in the first zone. And each island typically has 3 or 4 of them, so if you haven't found that many on the island that you're on, typically there's another one that's hidden away somewhere. Most of these islands that BOSA Studios have picked to be in the world have some hidden areas in them, so you probably haven't found one of those. So I do some more searching on that island if you haven't already. And the other main way for you to gain knowledge is to find chests which have journal entries from the survivors of the destruction of Worlds Adrift when everything kind of went to crap. And when you discover those journal entries and record them, you gain 15 knowledge in the first zone and more in the higher tier zones. Now, when you're discovering these chests and getting the materials from them, a general piece of drifter etiquette for Worlds Adrift players is to either use up that entire chest, take everything out of it so it despawns and can respawn for future players, or if you don't need any of the materials from it, one thing that's super great is to put a chest down, because you can build chests of your own for people to find, and put everything that you don't necessarily need into that so the next person, if they need it, can pick it up. Now that you've gained the knowledge to build your first ship, it's time to actually start building your first ship. Now, in order to get the shipbuilding schematic and the assembler schematic, you need to have 50 knowledge built up, which isn't too hard. Now, the other thing that I highly recommend for you to gain knowledge, because when you first gain the tree, you can research wings, you can research swivel guns, you can research cannons, and engines. I highly recommend that you research engines, because most likely, even though you need wings too as a major component of your ship, if you found chests, you probably gained at least one wing schematic, so you don't need to research that right away. Meanwhile, with the engine schematic, not only when you learn the engine schematic do you learn a new engine, but you also learn the fuel tank, which is something that I have never seen a blueprint for to find in a chest, so you need to make sure you get that. Now, why you want an engine is obviously, it's a propulsion, and yeah, you might think that you can use sails as a cheap alternative to it, but they don't work depending on what the wind situation is. If you're kind of dead in the water and there's not a lot of wind, you're kind of screwed. And the other reason is because you'll need engines to get through your first wall into the new zone, or the tier 2 zone, which has obviously better stuff. And when you get into tier 2 zones, you gain more knowledge so you can build better ships. The other thing is, if you don't have the knowledge enough for an engine, because engines take 250 knowledge for its first tier, you can find more knowledge on other islands without having to have a ship. It's pretty simple. You just kill your avatar off, and then what will happen is you'll have 3 ways to respawn. If you had a personal reviver, you could use that. It will say go to a nearby location to respawn, or a random location. You would want to choose the random location to hopefully spawn on a new island and gain the knowledge from that island. After 2 or 3 islands, you should have enough knowledge to build your first engine and have an engine schematic. If you for some reason don't, and you need to get to a new island, you can build your first ship with sails. It's not a big deal, but you will want to upgrade in the future to make sure that you have engines on the ship. Now your ship needs 4 things, and then there's some little tidbits or hints I have of what to build for your first ship. So you need an Atlas Skycore, which is the anti-gravity device that lets your ship float. You need the helm, which is, obviously the rudder that allows you to control your ship's direction. The wings, and a personal reviver, which is obviously what we talked about earlier. If you die, you can respawn to it. And the fuel tank, which works in conjunction with the engines. On your first ship, you only need 1. On larger ships where you're using more than 4 engines and they're more powerful, you'll need to use more than 1 fuel tank. And at least 1 engine, preferably 2 to move around a zone. Now, some little information that might help you along the way is materials that you use on your ship do matter. There are better materials and worse materials. The worst material, in my opinion, is lead. If you can help it, never use lead on a ship component. It's too heavy and it's pretty soft. It won't help. Another thing to keep in mind is conductivity of metals is a big thing. So, for example, in your Atlas Skycore, there is 1 component that should be made out of a conductive material, like copper or silver or gold. If you do that, then your Atlas Skycore can have more weight on it, which will help you a lot in the first zone. So if you have copper, which is probably what you have in the first zone, make sure you use it on that. The other thing that you want to keep in mind when you're building your ship is you want to make sure that if you haven't found friends and you're just by yourself, don't build a big ship. Build a small ship. I find that a skiff schematic is more than ample room for just you yourself. I know big ships seem fun, but it's a lot of work for you to take in, and you can't necessarily drive it that well because your Atlas Skycore, your anti-gravity device, can't support the weight on it. You're just going to be dead in the water. So make sure you get a small ship and don't pull it down with a lot of weight, at least for the size of the ship. Pull it down with weight when it comes to engines and wings. I'm going to get into why you need to do that right now. Now, if you want to get through the first wall, the general rule of thumb is you want 4 wings on your ship and 4 engines. In your engines, you will see it will have different levels when it comes to it. Typically, it's resistance, power, spin up, and I think 1 more. And obviously the weight of it, but that doesn't matter too much typically unless you're putting lead on it, which again I suggest not to. And you want your power level to at least get to 80, around 80. If you have an 80 power overall with your skyship and you have 4 wings for maneuverability, you can typically punch through the wind wall pretty easily. Then after that, it's just going from place to place to keep building up your ship and getting better schematics in order to get to the next wall, which is the storm wall. And we'll get into the storm wall in a later video because that one's a little harder to get through, and I suggest that you actually have a crew for that because it does damage your ship. The wind wall batters you around a lot, but it doesn't hurt your ship. Meanwhile, the storm wall does, so you'll need people to help you with that. Alright, well that's basically it, guys. So yeah, make sure you gain knowledge from everything that you can. Make sure that you're at least looking out for 3 or 4 knowledge caches on each island. Don't build with lead. If you're by yourself, build a small ship and make sure you have at least 4 decent engines and 4 wings on your ship in order to punch through the first wall. If you guys have any questions, I can address it in a future video, or I can comment down below to answer them. If there's any other video that you guys want, just let me know. I'm trying to put out about 2 videos or 3 videos a week, so I should be able to get to it in the future. Thank you everyone for coming in. Thank you for watching my last video. It was great, guys. 600 views, that's amazing. Hopefully this one can get even further. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Every bit helps. And as always, guys, happy gaming.